their way for another 4 years, you're all going to start feeling like Oliver Twist. You'll have less and be expected to be happy with it, left begging the government for scraps.
This is
more power
communist
Washington,
thinking,
less for you.
okay?
And
This
here's
is what the
reality
left
for
wants
young
from
people
us.
today.
Oh, nothing to be
You
happy?
look at the average income, 75 grand. How are you supposed to afford an average mortgage payment of $3,400?
Young people can't afford to buy homes. That's part of the American dream, which unfortunately is now dead.
There are consequences for runaway spending and borrowing, and we all have to just contend with this now. There is no way to defend this. But yeah, they're going to try. You're going to start hearing things like, who needs to own a home anyway? Renting is so much easier anyway. Houses just tie you down. You should just focus more on your work-life balance. Send me a memo when we've retired that phrase. All right, and remember, feminists, they've always believed that suburban life was repressive.
Yet these
even
liberals
racist.
and wealthy 1%
This
will
is
own
a
everything.
lie.
That
To
is their
use their
goal.
lingo, it's all just disinformation. It's used to cover for the failed liberal experiment.
You can count on
And
Barack
people just starting
Obama.
out now see the American
Clintons.
dream as out of reach. Yeah. Well,
They won't
no
be
wonder so many of them
giving
feel
up their
depressed
stuff.
and just
Oh,
stuck.
hell no.
You just feel lied to because you thought that if you just went to college and got a degree, you'd be able to afford a house and like things that make you happy, but yet you're still barely can afford groceries or clothes or literally anything that makes you happy at all.
Now, naturally, with the high cost of living, more are staying with mom and dad longer.
Biden,
According to a
Harris,
survey, Biden-Harris
2024,
poll,
don't own and
Bloomberg,
don't
roughly
rent.
45%
Don't drive a gas
of
car.
people
Don't
ages
do this.
18 to 29
If that is
are
not
living at home with their families.
tyranny,
That's the
if
highest
that
figure
is
since the
not a
1940s.
dictatorship, what
Now,
is?
in the 1980s,
Wake up.
We couldn't wait
Damn
to bust
liberals,
out of home
wake
at
the
18.
F up.
But now many Americans are simply managing their expectations. Now, we shouldn't be surprised. This was their plan all along.
Yep. It's written in the Bible. It is in the Bible, every word of this. Look at this. These are the ads they want to pass.
The globalists know
Oh,
best.
nothing?
Look at how well they did by our kids during COVID, after all. And now they offer no real solutions to curbing inflation or bringing down prices. Instead, they're gearing up to tell us that really today's problems, they're just too complex to solve. Once again, we're hearing the phrase, the new normal. But it is not normal. That is a lie. It's a twisted, bleak world they're creating, and the establishment's handling of things is deeply unpopular. Check this out. A new Wall Street Journal poll is showing that most Americans think things are getting worse, not better economically. That's just over the last 2 years. Bidenomics was supposed to be making everything better. A new line from Washington, though, will be that we have to unite as Americans and simply all be okay with less. Now, they're going to also try to redefine patriotism as well. Now, remember, if you really care about protecting others, you needed to get the COVID shot.
Yeah.
So soon it's going to be, if you really care about saving our country from climate change, you're going to do
Which is a hoax and a lie.
SUV,
And nothing
your
wrong
gas
with our
stove,
climate,
your gas
except for
water
these
heater,
MFers,
etc. And if
globalist,
you don't,
1%
you're just a
elites.
MAGA troglodyte.
Let's be clear that the automotive sector is moving toward EVs, and we can't pretend otherwise. Sometimes when these debates happen, I feel like it's the early 2000s, and I'm talking to some people who think that we can just have landline phones forever.
What a dismissive jerk. Okay?
Yep.
And I kept
100%.
And I thought, wait a second, that was a Rhodes Scholar. I think Cecil needs to come back from the
Where
grave
do you
and
think they
defund the
learned
scholarship.
all the lies?
Cars and landlines,
College.
that's the same thing.
The
Okay,
lies
Pete, go back to
stem
South
from
Bend.
there.
Now, if
Global
you're a young
warming
voter,
lie.
Wake up before it's too late.
Yes,
You
people,
don't
please
have to
wake
like anything
up.
about Trump or anything he does or says. But one thing he will not do, he will not turn the economy upside down, then gut your basic freedoms, and
Yep.
then tell you, get used to it. That is not the American way.
Nope,
And
that's
that's-
Biden's way.
All right, joining us now, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker
That's
of
the
the
Democrat
House,
way,
and
the
Fox
new
News
Democrat
contributor,
way.
Newt. They know how to grow the economy. They actually do, because Trump was doing it. But they decided to do the opposite at the beginning of 2020.
We gotta vote 'em out,
This
people.
is their policy,
Come
is
on.
it not?
Your freedom.
You
Everything.
have to understand
On the
that
line.
the weird elements of the Democratic Party are now dominant, and they live in a fantasy world. And the only way they can survive is convincing the rest of us that their fantasy is okay. We were struck on Good Friday. We went by McDonald's and picked up filet of fish, which is now about half the size of the filet of fish before Biden. Every time you turn around, you're reminded that these policies of the Biden Democrats do not work. Well, no, not a matter of ideology. You can't build enough electric cars that people want, which is why there are now thousands of cars sitting on lots. The head of Hertz lost his job for buying too many electric cars. The average American is saying, no, I don't want it. And the answer on the weird left is, we don't care. We're going to impose it. We're going to
Impose
make you
it.
do it. And you have people like Buttigieg,
That's
who combines being
dictatorship.
ignorant with
When
being
our
arrogant
government is
in a way that's
demanding us
breathtaking
and
for a cat
imposing
dog.
it on us. That's
Well, and
dictatorship.
also, Newt, I think you and I predicted this at
Last
the
time
time.
I heard
but
this
the
was
Biden
America.
administration
The
also
land of
failed
the
to
free,
live
the
up to
home of the
another
brave.
promise.
Get
Watch
brave,
this.
people.
You guys started draining the
Say
Strategic
no.
Petroleum Reserve to try and help with the Putin price hike a few years ago. Said you were going to refill it, but now it doesn't seem like that's happening. Why?
Well, I believe the Department of Energy is responsible
Here
for
we have this
that
tonight.
particular component, is refilling that. So I would refer you to Department of Energy.
Okay, Newt. She's acting like the Department of Energy is a separate government in a separate country, okay? They knew what they were doing when they drained the reserve, did they not?
Yep.
Of
They
course.
do.
Of
And they
course.
sold it to
Look,
China in case
first of
y'all
all,
forgot.
let's be fair. She is the worst press secretary
Communist
in
country,
history.
China.
But since she's trying to defend the worst administration's policies, she doesn't really have much of a fighting chance. The left doesn't like oil. It doesn't like gas. It has a fantasy belief that between wind and solar, you can give up everything else. It's totally false.
Bullshit.
It's literally physically impossible.
Yep.
And yet they chant, get together, have a cocktail party, and convince themselves that they're right.
They are the 1%
This
global
administration
elite.
desperately sold, at a time people told them not to, the oil out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, trying to keep the price down
Yeah,
for political
political.
reasons. Now they can't refill it because the price is going back up,
Yep.
and it doesn't fit their values. They don't care if we run out of oil. What they care about is some fantasy world in which you and I will somehow get by on their theoretical inventions of technologies that don't work.
But you know, this is why they love the COVID lockdowns, right? I'm here in California. I'm surprised the state ever opened. Frankly, I think they were chasing people on the beach. It was so embarrassing, but they wanted to condition people to stay at home, hunker down, the new normal, travel less.
Fake news
just
lies
don't
that got
expect
everyone to
more.
stay
Just
home.
be put,
The
stay
scare
put.
tactics.
I
The
really think they
communist
thought people were
scare
going to be okay
tactics.
with that long term. Thank God we had Florida, Texas, and all the other red states that said, to hell with you, we're opening up.
Yep. South Dakota.
You know, it's really strange all across the modern industrial world. COVID became the excuse for the political elites to suddenly become
Yeah,
really
political
powerful.
elites.
And they loved it. They also cheated on all of it. I mean, you had Governor Whitmer, whose husband was taking a boat out when it was
Frauds.
illegal to take boats. You had all sorts of things going on.
Oh yeah,
But
Newsom went to
from their
Nampa
standpoint,
without big dinner
COVID
party.
was the
No
great
mask.
Oh,
opportunity
the dream.
to
They
truly
love COVID.
control
Everyone else
Americans.
do.
Yeah, and this was the best thing
You're
ever for
exactly
them.
right.
You find
Uber
that all
Eats,
of
sit
these
at home and
buddies
just
in
sweatpants
Africa
all day, and like wait for the next
Fucked all
Uber
the-
Eats and check from the government. I mean, this is socialism on display. They love it.
For that fucking fake ass bullshit.
And the fact is, it didn't work. Most Americans know it didn't work. The damage to our children by closing the schools has been horrendous. And I think, frankly, part of the reaction we're seeing that leads to a Donald Trump victory is people are sick of politicians who not only dictate what you should do, but then cheat and don't do it themselves. So they set up rules for you because they know
Yeah.
they're not going to obey the very rules
No.
that they're creating.
Definitely.
Now, I want to play one soundbite from President Biden today, where again he thinks this is all a messaging problem, so they're trying out new messaging. Watch.
We have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America.
They treat us like that.
This is from the bottom of my heart. We're united. There's nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together.
You ain't doing anything for anyone but yourself and your family, you criminal
every
joke.
crisis we've entered stronger than
It's a
we were
joker.
in.
Well, no, that's just
I'm
false.
sorry,
The
I'm
polls
pissed.
show that people
Every
think we're
American
not
should be
better off than
pissed.
we were in 2019 before
Our
the
Constitution is
pandemic.
being
We're worse
crushed
off
and
by almost every
destroyed.
measure.
And we're being
Well, I agree with
invaded
his
by
conclusion
criminals.
That after we defeat Biden and we defeat the weird left, we will in fact come out of this in the next 10 years dramatically stronger. It's just not the outcome he expects. Look, this is a guy who for some reason sold out to the hard left on everything. I mean, that's how you end up
Money
with
talks
a
for him.
transgender day on Easter. I mean,
He's a
you know
criminal.
how hard it is to make a mistake like that?
We the people should
And
have thrown his
you know,
ass out of
every single
office. We are
front,
supposed
he's
to
doing
throw his
things
ass
that
out of
make no
office.
sense. Doubling and tripling down on electric
Crimes
vehicles.
against
When the American
humanity,
people are saying
crimes against
everywhere in
humanity.
Ohio,
No,
it's a 6% market. It's not a 100% market.
No, it's so great to see you. You and I remember California when they had Republican governors, and the state was like surfing USA all the time. All right, Newt, great to see you.
Right.
All right, the warnings were dire. The experts told everyone to stop having so many babies.
No intelligent, patriotic American family ought to have more than 2 children, preferably 1. And there's not the slightest question that if we don't get the population under control with voluntary means, that in the not too distant future, the government will simply tell you how many children you can have and throw you in jail if you have too many.
Sound familiar?
But as
China?
usual, the experts were smug and cynical, but not smart. And
That
now
will
the
be next.
survival
They're gonna
of
try to post
America
that
is
next.
actually at
There we
stake.
have it, the fucking
A new
shock.
review of the U.S. Census data
Some
shows
women
that
can't
when
have
women
babies.
ages 25 to 44 are asked how many children they have, the most common answer is
None of your
0.
fucking business.
0 children. Only 5% of women are having 4 or more children. Now we know China and Russia, a long time, they've had similar birth rate crises, but in the United States, where last time I checked, God still matters to most people, why is this happening? And is there any turning this around? Projections now show our population declining in the second half of the century, and the consequences for the country are disastrous if this is the case. Lower tax base, lower productivity, fewer workers, fewer jobs. Joining me now, Fox News contributor Sean Duffy, co-host of The Bottom Line on Fox Business, and proud dad of 9 children.
A lot. 9, yes.
Wow.
9
Sean's
children.
like, wait, was it 7? No, it's 9. Sean, it's one of the many reasons we adore you, but is the number of children declining because of money concerns, or is this changing morals? Or?
Well, listen, I think there's a number of factors at play, Laura. So as Christianity recedes, we replace our culture with other gods. It's narcissism, consumerism. And as we look at families, families are about sacrifice. Families are about giving more to someone else than giving to yourself. And so if you look at what happens to young people right now, Laura, they've been told, this whole generation, be focused on your career. Don't be focused on your mate. Don't be focused on your family. Pursue your career. Well, sometimes you get too old to have kids or find a mate if you pursue your career. These kids today, these young people today, they've been hounded since they've been in kindergarten that there's a climate crisis on the horizon, and by having kids, they're going to affect the climate. So save the climate. Don't have kids, Laura, and they bought into that. Another problem is social media. A lot of these people are having these relationships that are fake on social media. You and I used to go to the bar or a coffee shop in the 80s and the 90s. They don't do that anymore, so they're not building real relationships, and you can't have kids if you don't find a mate. Young boys, Laura, there's a study, 18 to 25 years old, half of them have never approached a girl and asked them out. Well, if you don't go on a date, you can't get married. You can't have, if you can't get married, you don't have kids. So this is my advice, Laura. Listen, getting married, having kids will make you happy. You'll probably be more economically successful. And
the studies show that.
It does.
Yeah, the studies show that.
I talked to a doctor, and he served people who were in the last moments of their life, on their deathbeds. And I asked him, what do people talk about? What are the regrets on their deathbed? Without missing a beat, he said, the biggest regret that I hear from people on their deathbed is they didn't have more kids, right? And the time is when you're young, find a mate, get married, find love. It's fulfilling, and raising kids, giving yourself to someone else, fills the heart, fills the life. Focused on yourself is lonely, and I think we missed out on that in this culture. And I think the culture is reinforcing these ideas that families are bad and loneliness is good. Well, I'm sorry, it's not.
I remember when Mother Teresa was asked about this once, and I don't know if Raymond told me about this, but people asked, well, with children, and she would say, which one shouldn't be there? She'd look at the player, which one shouldn't be there? With children are love. They're sacrifice, but they're love. I mean, they drive us crazy, right? I mean, I have 3 teenagers, believe me. I'm a poster child for a sometimes frustrated mom. By the way, I want to play this. That's right, you do have gray hair. I might have gray hair, but you can't see it right now. Isn't that great? One person who has been consistently warning about this declining birth rate is Elon Musk. Watch this.
There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. And I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. It is, and yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world.
Yeah, Sean, again, the false promise of materialism or focus on yourself, work-life balance. I know that's a big obsession of yours, work-life balance, Sean. But he gets to the point. I mean, people say, well, he's unconventional. He has kids from different women, but his point is on it. He's on it with that.
Well, he's smart. He understands. This is not about even the happiness component of having a family and having kids. This is about what happens to the economy. Who is the next generation of workers that you're going to have in your society, in your community?
Lord Jesus, come home quickly.
Who's going
Come
to
back.
fund Social Security and Medicare?
We won't have to worry about all
when
this.
you get to the age of retirement,
Watch
you get to the age
Fox
of being
News.
80 years old,
Get the
you're
truth.
not going to have a next generation.
Newsmax,
and I
Real
think it is a crisis.
America's
And
Voice,
again, if you
or
look
the
at what's good for
Epcot.
countries, society,